Hey there, and welcome to section 3, coloring and light rays. In this section, we're really going to see the image come together. We're going to be doing some great work smoothing the edges of our subject. Not only that, but we're going to be color correcting our image as well. Sometimes little areas of your image won't quite line up, especially when you're using composite photography. This way, we're going to show you how to correct those colors to make sure that your composites really do work out. We're even going to show you how to add light rays to your image in this section. It's going to be great. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hey there, and welcome to section 3. This is color and light rays, and we're also going to be finishing up our subject. We've done a really great job with this tutorial so far, and now we're just going to go ahead and make some of these changes that are kind of outlined for us here, and then we're going to be getting ready into doing the color and the light rays. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start with our blur. We're just going to make the edge of our selection here just a little bit smoother, which is going to allow it to blend into the background just a little bit better. So let's make that invisible. We're going to start with this layer down here, and we're going to click on our layer mask. Now we're going to go up to select, and then down here to refine mask. There we go, refine mask. Now this is a really great tool because it allows you to actually see what kind of edge you're going to be wind up creating on your subject. You have a lot of different options here. You can choose to view it on overlay, on black, on white, whatever it is. I usually choose to have it on layers because I can actually see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay, and let's go ahead and see about feathering this a little bit more. So we're just going to type in 1, and you know what, let's type in 2 there and see what we get. That actually looks pretty good. So if we hit the show original, let's just zoom in a little bit more so we can see. There we go, show original versus, you can see it just feathers it a little bit more. You know what, we could bring this feathering probably up to 3 and be just fine. So let's hit show original versus, there we go. And you can see it just, it matches the resolution of the image just a little bit better. Let's hit this before and the after. There we go, and it allows it to blend in a little bit better. Let's hit the before and the after here. So it shows the before and the after. And if we want to shift this edge in, we can do that a little bit as well. Let's put like negative 20. There we go. And shifting this edge in is going to allow it, there we go, to kind of bring it inside. So if we do have any haloing or something like that, it'll take care of those areas for us too. Now, you know what? I don't like negative 20. That's too much. So let's type in negative 10. All right. Now, I do realize we have a slight dark area right around here and a dark area there, but we're going to take care of that in just a minute. Mostly, we just want to make sure that the edge is pretty believable. And in this case, I think it is. So let's click on this remember settings here. So it's going to lock all that in. Let's hit OK. Okay. We're going to zoom out. And now we're going to click this layer visible. We're going to click on our layer mask here, and now I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to go to select, down to refine mask, and it's going to have all of our same settings and everything like that good to go. We can click the show original for the before and the after if we'd like. There we go. There's the original, and there's the after. All right, let's see. Bring this in a little bit more. Let's see, negative 10. It's doing a kind of a weird thing on the hands. Let's see if this hand is good. Yeah, I like that hand. It's doing something a little bit weird here, but we'll be able to take care of that. Everything else I think looks pretty good. Let's see what it's doing with the hair. Yeah, everything else looks pretty good. So we'll just leave it the same settings. That way the edge around the top half of her body will be the same as the edge on the bottom half of her body. Okay, so there is our blur that we've taken care of. Now here is our lighten. We're going to go ahead and start taking care of that. Now in order to do that, I'm just going to demonstrate very quickly what a clipping mask is, because we're going to be using a clipping mask. So here's what a clipping mask is. It's a way to define the visibility of one layer based on the visibility of another layer. So let's say we had a layer just like that, with some green on it, okay? Now we're going to make another layer right above that, okay? And we're going to paint a different color. Let's put some blue on there. There we go. Something like that. Okay, well, by default, the two layers don't have anything to do with each other. But really I want this blue to only be visible where that green is. So I'm going to create what's called a clipping mask. To do so, I'm going to right click here on layer 3, and I'm going to go to create clipping mask. There we go. And now, if I use my move tool, that blue is only visible where the green is visible, which helps out a lot. Okay, if I want to unclip it, I can simply right click and go to release clipping mask, and they're unclipped again. Okay, let's go ahead and delete those. We're going to use the same principle here for the foot area of our subject. So if I were to create a new layer, let's just say I'm going to paint the same blue on it because I'm showing you how to do this. We're going to right click and say to create clipping mask. Now this blue is only going to be visible where our subject is, right? Because we cut her out. It's one of the many advantages of cutting out your subject. Okay, now this is great, though we don't need the blue there. What I really would want is to be able to paint with the colors that are actually in the foot. So let's go ahead and delete this layer. We don't need that layer. We're going to make a new layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and say create clipping mask. So I've got a new layer with nothing on it, and it's clipped to this underlying layer. Okay, now what we're going to do, this is where the actual usefulness of this comes in. We're going to grab our brush tool, and instead of just painting blue, I'm going to grab some of the colors that are here in my foot. So in this case, we're going to grab this lighter color, and I'm going to paint right here at the edge of our foot. There we go. And you can see in real time how it completely gets rid of that little dark halo. And you're saying, wow, how did that work? Well, here's how it works. I'm going to right click and say release clipping mask. See, I just painted with that color right here. So I'm not even being very, accurate where I'm painting it, but because it's only visible on this layer now, it takes care of the work, for me basically. I don't need to be accurate. I don't need to just paint a tiny thin line because it's only visible where this foot is visible. So let's do the same thing. We've got a dark edge here. We're going to just grab this color right inside, and I'm going to paint right to the outside. There we go. Kind of just, taking care of that little bit of an edge there. Couldn't really be easier. Alright, let's just grab a lighter color there and paint. Here we go. With the lighter color right at the edge. Give it like a little bit of roundness. Alright, there we go. There we go, a little bit more. So this is where a little bit of, artistic skill comes in. But we've successfully gotten rid of that edge right around there, which is exactly what we wanted to do. And now we're going to do the same thing with this. Any place we need it. So in this case, we want to. We've got a different layer here, right? So we're going to create a new layer above that. Right click and go to create a clipping mask. Okay, and we're going to just simply paint this in because there was you see that white halo right there? That doesn't look good. That looks like she's cut out from the background, right? So we'll just sample the color just inside, and then we're just going to paint right to the outside there. Okay, and this will work on any time you have someone cut out of their background. This will work really nicely for that. Okay, there we go. So look at the before and after with that up there at the top. All right, cool. It'll even work on the hair. If we see how this is a light area right over here on the hair, that's not right? So we're just going to grab a dark area here in the hair and paint it over top of that. That should allow it to look as though it's blending in quite a bit better. There we go. Very nice. All right, there we are. And that looks pretty good. See the before and the after, see areas like that. There we go. And then once again on the foot. So if I do run across any other areas that don't look right because they have a little bit of halo, I'll just add to these layers. Okay, moving on, we're going to take care of the flare. So we're going to do that with a clipping mask as well. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take care of this with levels, and the reason is because it's a little bit blue in color and it doesn't have a ton of contrast. We can change both of those with levels. So we're going to grab an adjustment layers, go to levels. I'm going to hit Option Command G, which is just the keyboard shortcut for a clipping mask. Okay, or you can hit this little button right there, bonk, and it's a clipping mask, meaning now whatever I do, it's only going to affect our subject. Alright, there we are. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to take my black level, and we're just going to bring it up here just a little bit, okay? And we're going to go to our blue channel, and I'm going to click and drag this to the right just a little bit, because I don't want so much blue. I need to take out some of the blue. And now it needs a little bit more red, so we're going to go to the red channel, and I'm just going to click up a couple times right here in the middle. There we go. You can see that we've taken the blue out of it and given it some nice contrast. Bring our darks up just a little bit more. Alright, now you can see this is only visible on this subject, which is good, but it's visible on the entire top half, right? Well, no biggie. We've got a layer mask here on the levels adjustment layer. Okay, let's just hit Command or Control I on that layer mask, which is going to invert it, making it black. And now we're just going to grab our brush tool and paint white right over top of this hand, just like that. Okay, so now this is only affecting that hand. Alright, it's a little bit too much yellow, so let's just go back to our blue channel here. Okay, and we're going to just click the up arrow a couple times. There we go. That's looking really good. Let's go back here. We can adjust these, you know, at any point in time, because they're not, you know, they're not in any way affecting this layer permanently. They're just clipped to it, so they're, you know, it's a very temporary thing. I can change this at any point in time. I could come in 10 years from now and do that if I wanted to, which is a really great way to adjust things, because you're not locked in permanently, which is, it makes things a lot easier to adjust. Okay, that looks a lot better, right? Alright, I think so anyway. Let's grab some hair. Now this hair, what we're going to do is I'm going to make a selection right around this area. Okay? And I'm going to hit Control or Command J. So when I have a selection and I hit Control or Command J on a layer, it just duplicates that to a new layer. So this is what I've got. It's on a new layer. Okay? Let's make this invisible. Now I can just choose to, let's go ahead and make that invisible. This is that hair. Alright? I don't need to cut this out from its background. The reason is because this hair it's dark hair and it's on a light background. And there's a blending mode that I can use that's going to allow me to blend that together. In the blending mode, there are two actually. I can choose darken or multiply. So let's try darken. You can see over here it doesn't do much, but right in front of the window it does a lot, right? And it allows me to actually you know, paint this hair in wherever I want. Alright, you can see it's a little bit too light. Let's go ahead and let's go to multiply. Nope, we really did want darken. Okay, it's a little bit too light, so we're going to hit Control or Command L to bring up our levels. We're going to just bring our dark point up just a little bit. Alright, there we go. And now we can just kind of choose whatever we want. Alright, let's put a layer mask on there. And I can tell this layer to either be visible or not visible in certain areas. Alright, mainly any areas that have you know, have the post or whatever there. Alright, there we go. So we just added a little bit more hair to her, which I think looks pretty good. Okay, now let's just take this bit of hair too. Why not? I'm going to make a new layer. We're going to use our clone stamp tool, and I'm going to just sample this hair that's right here. Okay, and we're just going to paint this on a new layer. So this is very similar to what I had here, right? Instead of using a different layer, I'm just using the layer that we had there. So at clone stamp tool, let's just change this again from normal down to darken, just like we did before. Now I can flip it. I can hit Controller Command T, right click and say flip horizontal. Okay, there we go. And we'll just stick it right there and fill that little spot that didn't have a ton of hair. We'll just fill that in. Okay. Put a layer mask on that. Boom. Easy, 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 easy. Okay, that looks pretty good there. All right, and that's inside of our hair group, right? So this layer, we don't need this anymore. Remember, this is the layer that we said we're only going to take our hair, and we did that, and we're done with it now. So I can just hit delete because we don't need it anymore. Okay. Now, if you do want to paint hair, you'll find that a lot of the time it's pretty easy to do, especially if you have dark hair. Light hair is a lot harder to paint because you got to paint all the light and dark hair strands. But dark hair, very easy. Just grab your brush tool. In this case, we want a feathered edge, right? Because it's got a little bit of blur to it. So B for the brush tool. Let's grab this color. Okay. So we're going to right click and we want to say our hardness. We want to bring way down. Okay. That looks pretty good. And now we want to adjust our size. So great tip here. Hold down the Control and the Option key. Hold down Control and the Option. If you're on a Mac, if you're on a PC, it's going to be Control and Alt and right click. Alright, so I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to hold Control and Option with the brush tool. I'm going to click, and if I drag from the left to the right, it's going to make my brush larger and smaller. Up and down makes my brush harder and softer. So I can very easily choose to create hair or whatever I decide to create at any size or hardness. You can also use the open and close brackets on your keyboard to do so. Alright, and now we're just going to create some hair. And I'm painting with my brush tool. If your ends are too strong, just grab your eraser tool and like erase the ends away a little bit. There we go. See how that looks a little better. Alright, I'm going to lay one more really cool tip on you. While you're painting around with the brush tool, okay, like that, if I hit R for my rotate tool, I can rotate my image around. Okay? Really nice. So, for instance, if I want to paint hair like this, I'm using a tablet, which helps a lot for painting hair or whatever, but I still, I'm not very good at painting like hair up and down with a lot of control, but if I paint like that, it's a very natural movement for my hand and for my brush. So you probably find that some movements are more natural than others. So by using the rotate tool, I'm able to not be restricted by the scale or the rotation of my image, right? Alright, I can just rotate it back up. There we go. Looks pretty good. Alright, I'm just painting some more hair. Anywhere that's a little bit funky, I can just kind of fix up a little bit. No biggie. There's not a ton of strategy besides just like, try to paint something that looks like hair. Alright, and if you need to, it can be a good idea to add a bit of a blur. Alright, there we go. Fix that up there. Cool. Alright, if you do want to add a little bit of a blur, just go to Filter, down here to Blur, Gaussian Blur. That's a winner most of the time. Gaussian blurs. It's going to work for you. Alright, let's give it a little bit of blur. There we go. Cool. And you can spend as little or as much time on that as you'd like. It's totally up to you. All right. You know what? I'm going to just erase that. There we go. All right. So there we are. Adding some hair. Okay. Let's look. We've done hair. We've done flare. We've done lighten. You know what? That's a little bit too much red, isn't it? Not a biggie. Just click right here again. Go back to your red channel. And there we go. Lower that down a little bit. Okay, so we've done hair, we've done flare, we've done lighten, and we've done blur. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, let's go ahead and make this invisible. And now we are ready to color and add some light rays, which is going to be great. So let's go create a new layer. I'm going to hit Controller Command G, and we're going to call this color and light. Okay, now here we're going to grab a curves adjustment layer. So we're going to go to our adjustment layers, go down to curves. Okay, now here we're going to choose to add a little bit of red. Okay, go to our blue channel, we're going to pull this down a little bit, and that's going to red, and when you pull blue down, it makes yellow. Blue up makes blue. So red and blue, or sorry, red and yellow mixed together makes orange, which gives us a really nice mix right there. Alright, so just kind of warming that up a little bit. And then you know what we're going to do is I'm going to hit G for the gradient tool. We're going to use a linear gradient, and then I'm going to choose my foreground to transparent here. And I'm going to choose it with black. I'm going to paint in that way, and that's just gonna center my warmth like right where the window is. There we go. That's nice there. Okay. Cool. Looking good. All right, let's go ahead and start working on our light rays. We've still got a decent bit more work to do with this, but we're going to start playing with some light rays. So next we're going to create a new layer, and now I'm going to grab our polygonal lasso tool right here. Polygonal lasso tool. We're going to start with the corner, there we go, of the window. Kind of come down in this area, kind of go up in this way, and then there we go. And hit enter when you're ready to done making the selection there. Okay, so we've got our selection here. Now on this new layer, we're going to hit B for the brush tool. Let's just choose a regular soft round brush here. Make it nice and big. And I'm going to choose this color that's here in the background. Okay, and we're going to start painting in. Okay, and these lines are they're going to stop me from being able to paint in certain areas. Now I want to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to hit Controller Command H, and that's just going to hide the selection so I can actually see what I'm doing here. Alright, and I'm going to choose, some of these brush strokes are going to be larger, some of these are going to be smaller, but my main goal here is just to kind of get this done. There we go. To make it look like it's got light rays and stuff. There we go. So have some fun with this. Alright, that looks pretty good as a start. Now I know this is not done, but as a start, this looks pretty good. Notice how I'm keeping the majority of my light closer to the window, and here towards away from the window, I am not painting quite as much. Okay, great. Now we're going to deselect. Controller Command D will do that for me. Okay, now this guy, what we're going to do is give it a blur. So we're going to go to Filter, down here to Blur, going to go to Gaussian Blur. Okay, and I want to choose a blur that's going to make my edges look nice and, somewhat realistic. Alright, that looks pretty good. I want them as closely defined as possible while still being, there we go, that looks good, while still being a blurred edge. Great. Okay, so that's a good base. That gets us halfway there. The next very important thing to do is put a layer mask on there. Put a layer mask on, and now your job is to paint with a very large soft edge brush, paint with black, and I'm going to change my flow down to 10%, which is going to allow me to just paint a little bit at a time, just a little bit of black. So we put down the majority of our light rays, and now we're just making them look more realistic, okay? And we're doing that with a very large soft edge brush. There we go. Because we want these to look like kind of inconsistent a bit. You know, we don't want everything to look the same here. All right. There we go. And easy does it with light rays. They don't have to be like, you know, overwhelming. In fact, it's better if they're not. All right, let's lower that opacity there a little bit more. There we go. Some beautiful light rays. Now we're going to take this one step further. Here's our next step. Well, let's make a new layer. I'm going to hit M for my marquee tool, and I'm going to make a selection like that. Okay, and then I'm going to hit Shift Delete, which brings up our fill dialog, and I'm going to say use the foreground color, which is this color here, same color I made with the light rays, right? Okay, and then I'm going to make a really thin one. Okay, and we're going to fill that with that same color. We're going to make another one, and let's make a thicker one. A really thin one, and then another really thin one. There we go. So on a layer, on its own, I have something that looks like this, which is like, okay, great, good job, you did it. What we're going to do with this is make it look like more light rays. Okay, so let's hit Control or Command T. We're going to rotate this around, okay, and I want this to be, you know, kind of similar to what my light rays are doing, right? So follow these rules. We want to hold Control or Command to grab any one of these corners, and as I do this, you're going to see it's going to kind of spread out, right? So I can just hit Control or Command and spread these out. So we're going to start up small here, right? And we're gonna just stretch them out in that way. That looks pretty good. But we're going to do this twice, you know. So before I hit Enter to apply that transformation, I'm going to just hit Control or Command J a couple times, so I have a few more of these. I like that strategy because it just gives me some backups. So we'll show you again. Control or Command T brings up a transformer. We're just going to rotate that around. Okay, let's bring it down here. And now I hold the Control or the Command key. There we go. Let's hit Enter. We'll do the same thing with this. Control T for our transform. All right. Control or Command. Click on any of these corners there. There we go. And we're going to hit Enter. All right. So there we go. Got some more light ray looking things there. What do we do with this? Now, well, since these are going to be about the same, let's just shift click the two of those, hit Command G, and then the same thing like we did before, we're just going to blur them. So let's go to Filter, not Control or Command G, that groups. Control or Command E is an elephant, which will not group them together. Control or Command E will merge them together. You know what? I'm just going to get rid of this one because it's too big. There we go. Control or Command E will merge these two together. So shift click the two of those. E is an elephant. Now they're the same layer. Okay? And now we're going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. There we go. That looks good. Okay. More light rays. Everybody's happy. I want as many possible light rays as we can get. Now it's time to do the same thing. Let's put a layer mask on there. Okay. And we're going to paint with a very large black brush at a very low flow, kind of build this up so we can get our light rays to the point where, you know, we only need to see a few of these here. But I like using this method because it makes them a lot more like linear, right? They actually look like rays. Whereas if you were to just draw this with your brush tool, you'd probably be able to do an alright job, but they wouldn't all look like they're, you know, kind of doing the same angle there, right? Like here you can clearly see like, that'd be pretty hard to do with your brush. Not impossible, but it'd be pretty tough. Alright, and then we're going to group those together. So that's all my light rays. And then this little guy, remember I duplicated this more? If I wanted to, let's duplicate it again. I could make like a really small version of it for like the hair. Wouldn't that be cool? Alright, let's try that. Yeah, let's try that. Why not? Like the hair is blocking the light, right? Why not? Let's duplicate that just in case I don't like this. I'm always duplicating things. Gives me more options, and then when I gotta, you know, remake something like this, it's not like I don't have to go all the way back from the beginning. I just go from here. Alright, let's just lower the opacity now. And then I can just kind of put this wherever I want, right? Like I could have some kind of coming across her face. That looks cool there. It's going to look like it's coming through her hair, right? So let's put a layer mask. And you could spend all day doing light rays. I mean, because they're kind of fun. And you could like plan out like, oh, this should be, you know, that should be kind of coming in through that area, and you know, should be going out that one, and whatever. Let's just hit Command J on this. Bring this like, yeah, bring it right there. Invert that layer mask, and then that'd be like the hair blocked a couple light rays. Okay, we have gotten pretty light ray happy here, but I'm okay with that because it looked good. I like it. So color and light, looking pretty good. I gotta say, color and light. All right. Cool. Now on this group that has the majority of these guys, let's see about putting a layer mask on here, and you know, anywhere where we might want to just have a little bit more visible, like, you know, the inside of her leg, we might want that to be a little bit more visible. Should we get it to look like there's little beams coming from her fingers? I think so. I think that'd be cool. To do that, let's try it. Why not? We'll make this layer visible. Okay, it's another duplicate. We see. Aren't these duplicates nice? Do something like that, right? Okay, and now what we want to do is I want to give it a little bit of a blur. There we go. Now we're just going to turn this into a selection. So Control or Command, click on this. So earlier we were using these to add light rays, right? Now we can use it to actually subtract light rays because, let's just zoom in a little bit here. Move that.
because I have a layer mask, right? And I can just paint black on my layer mask in that selection. So let's try that. I'm going to paint black, but I'm going to hit Control or Command H so I can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. That looks cool, right? Whoa. Yep. I am the light ray king. I'm the king of light rays. Alright. Well, there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, that looks great. So, there's our before and after. We're going to come back and color this a little bit more, but one thing I want to do, I want to just get rid of a couple things here in the background. So we're going to get rid of this light because it's just a little bit distracting. So let's go ahead and make those invisible. We're going to go into our background, we're going to create a new layer, and then we're going to use the clone stamp tool. So S for the clone stamp tool. We're just going to sample this area and then paint right over top of there. Okay, sample this area. You know what, I can just grab my brush tool and color with that color because it's so like there's almost no detail back there. And then there's someone's head, so I'm going to kind of paint over them and make it look like something else. I do this a lot with my images because it, you know, as long as you take away enough detail for people to be like, hey, that's a guy's head back there, you're good most of the time. You took a picture of some guy's head. He's not a real photographer. A real photographer would not have included that. And a ladder? Call yourself a photographer. I would never photograph a ladder. Let's get rid of this little thing right there. Just these little distractions. Nothing like big deal here, but just a couple little things that are like, oh, my eye is being drawn into whatever that is. I don't need that to happen. Okay. Subject, light rays. See? Fixes that up a little bit. Alright. That's pretty nice, I gotta say. I am digging it. Well, that is the end of section 3. In our next section, which I'm very excited about, we're going to be finishing up this image, and then we are going to be adding some dust, and I'm going to show you guys how to dodge and burn, and some finishing steps. So, we'll see you in the next section.